Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney, and what a weekend we have had here in Blackhawks and IceHogs land. Now, I say that like it's all been very positive and exciting, and it very much has not been. Some of it has been good and exciting, other stuff, not so much. This weekend sees both the Blackhawks and the IceHogs playing back-to-back games. They played last night on Saturday at the same exact time, puck drop at 7 p.m. I hate when they do that because I have to pick one or the other, or I have to have two screens, and then it gets very confusing. Or like last night, it is just extra depressing when both teams lose. Thankfully, today on Sunday, the start times are staggered a bit, so I don't have to have that problem. But since both teams play back-to-back and a lot of stuff happened, I figured instead of making two separate videos, I would just combine them all into one. Really, it's just to make it easier on myself and editing and, time and whatnot. There will be two separate videos after the two games today. All right, like I said, both games yesterday were not very great. Both teams lost. Actually, every team that I was rooting for yesterday lost except Minnesota Duluth, and that game went to 5 overtimes, I want to say, and it ended after midnight. So technically it ended today. So every team that I was rooting for yesterday lost. Oh, wait. There were the Toronto Maple Leafs. They beat Edmonton in overtime. When you need a team to win, you can always count on the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Being a hockey fan is very hard sometimes. So I'm not going to talk too in depth about each game. The Blackhawks lost 3-1 to the Nashville Predators. It was not a good game by any means. The Hawks did not look like they were up to play the game. Nashville outskated them. They outworked them. They were just the overall better team. Kevin Lankinen played great. What are you going to do? Hopefully they can bounce back tonight and beat them in the second half of the back-to-back. The Rockford IceHogs lost 6-3 to the Chicago Wolves. They had 2 goals scored on them within the first minute of the game, so clearly that one put me in a good mood. But I will say this. When you look at the scores, 6-3 looks a lot worse than 3-1, right? I mean, you never want to give up 6 goals. That is just not good, and typically you won't win very many games doing that. But the IceHogs had the better game last night, surprisingly, because like I said, the Blackhawks just looked very bad. And while the IceHogs obviously weren't great, again, giving up 6 goals, that is such a theme this year, and I'm really not a fan of it. They did score 6 in their previous game, though, so that's fun. But another trend that we've seen with Rockford this year is when they get scored on, they just kind of roll over and die, and the game just goes very downhill, and it's bad hockey to watch. I will say that is the difference between the previous games and last night's game, because they did show life at different times throughout the game. They tried to battle back. They did get 3 goals of their own. Evan Barrett got a goal. I know Blackhawks fans are very excited that Evan Barrett is now in the system, and they have been keeping pretty close tabs on him, so there you go. Cody Franzen also got a goal, because that's just what he does from the blue line, is rack up points. And Reese Johnson got a goal. There's another one that Blackhawks fans are interested in, so there you go. But the most interesting thing about this weekend is there were a few debuts on both rosters. We've got to start somewhere, so let's start with the IceHogs. In goal, Ivan Nalimov finally made his AHL debut. He was originally drafted in the 6th round of the 2014 NHL draft by the Chicago Blackhawks. He played quite a few years in Russia, seeing it is now 2021. He's just been one of those guys that's kind of on your radar. He's in the system, but it was never really a given if he was going to come over and play for the Hogs or the Hawks or not. But he is here. He made his AHL debut last night, and clearly it didn't go very well. Those 2 goals in the first minute of the game were not a very kind welcome. After those 2, he did give up a 3rd in the first period, but he did come up with some big saves. I will give him that. Overall, if I had to rate his game, I'd probably give him a D. It just wasn't a very good showing from Nalimov. Here's looking on the optimistic side. The only goaltender for the IceHogs this year who hasn't had a terrible debut was Cale Morris. Matt Tompkins was bad, Colin Delia was bad, Scotty Darling was bad before he got let go from his PTO. I guess when Tom Auburn came in relief, he wasn't terrible. He gave up 2 goals of his own. But so far, the only guy who's come in and played a whole game and had his first one go well was Cale Morris. So I was very negative about Nalimov on Twitter last night, but I am willing to give him another chance because of this trend with the IceHogs goaltenders just not having a good first game. And it was his AHL debut. I should probably be nicer to the kid. We don't have the roster for Sunday's game yet. By the time y'all hear this, you will know who was in net and whether they won or lost probably, or you will hear this during the middle of the game. So hopefully whoever starts this game in the very near future, the game starts in about a half hour, hopefully that goaltender has a better game than the one last night. I'm going to assume Matt Tompkins, but we'll see if I'm right or not. The other player who made their AHL and IceHogs debut was Ian Mitchell. In a very shocking twist, the Blackhawks sent him down. He was in the lineup last night. He didn't get any points. He ended up as a -1. I didn't really notice him a whole lot out there. The one time I did notice him, he got all tangled up in himself and just fell over. So that's not very flattering, but I must be honest and say that I did have both games on at the same time, the IceHogs and the Blackhawks. So there is a very real chance that he did good things and I just didn't see them. If he's in the lineup again tonight, which I'm assuming that he will be, I will probably have a better assessment of how he looks. But I was definitely very intrigued with this move and very interested in seeing how he would play down in the AHL. He had a very good start to the year for the Blackhawks, especially coming in out of college. He's in his rookie season. He was noticeable up there. He did some good things. As of late, his game has kind of started falling off a little bit, but again, he's a rookie just coming out of college. It's to be expected. That's not to say he's been bad by any means, because he hasn't, but he wasn't playing at that top level like we saw from him to start. So with the Blackhawks being at home this weekend and the IceHogs playing against the Chicago Wolves last night, they were in Hoffman Estates. Today they are at the BMO. They're all in the same area, so the Hawks decided whoever wasn't going to be in the NHL lineup, they would send some of them down to Rockford to get some playing time, and we have Ian Mitchell because of that. It's still a very interesting move, and I was pretty shocked by it, but I understand the thought process behind it, and I'm excited to watch him in his second game in Rockford today. So that's the Rockford debuts. Let's talk about the Blackhawks. Number 77, Kirby Dach, is back. If you recall, in a pre-tournament game for the World Juniors, Kirby Dach broke his wrist, so he hasn't played a game since December. It's been kind of a will he, won't he for a few days now. He's been back skating with the team. Jeremy Colleton has been very secretive about whether he was going to get back in the lineup sooner, if we'd have to wait a little bit longer. Some people assumed he wasn't going to play for the rest of the season. I think many of us thought that he would get back in, play a few games, we just didn't know when. But that win was last night, and he looked great. Okay, the team as a whole was not very good. Again, they lost 3-1 to Nashville, but he was one of the better players on the ice. They started him on the third line. Again, he hasn't played since December. They're not just going to throw him into the fire and say good luck, but he ended up with one of the higher times on ice. So clearly he was ready for the challenge, and it was very promising that he looked like one of the better players out there. Sure, maybe it's not great that a guy who hasn't played since December is one of your best players on the ice during a game. That kind of tells you how the rest of the team played. But just when it comes to Kirby Dach himself, it was very promising to see that. He wasn't shying away from contact. He took face-offs. Maybe he deferred a little bit in the shot to pass area, but he did take some shots, so he's not afraid to do that. We don't know yet if he will be back in the lineup tonight or if they'll give him the night off, seeing as it is a back-to-back. We will just have to see, but I don't know, if I was a betting person with his positive comments after the game last night, I'd say he probably gets back in, but I wouldn't be surprised if he sat out tonight and just played again on Tuesday. But I know that Blackhawks fans all around the globe were very happy to see Kirby Dach back in the lineup. I know I was ecstatic when they announced it. You just have to hope and trust that they didn't rush him back too soon. He did say he wasn't 100%, but it just didn't make sense to sit out any longer. So you also really have to hope that he doesn't suffer any setbacks, but we will just have to see. So there is the exciting news from this weekend in Blackhawks and IceHogs land. Again, there will be 2 separate videos after the games tonight. I'll talk about the Saturday games a little bit more in those as well. But with the back-to-back, it gets very chaotic trying to film 2 separate videos, get them all edited and posted before the second game happens. I mean, it's chaotic when there's just one team playing back-to-back, but having both of them playing back-to-back, oh my goodness. So I thought maybe this was a good little compromise here. All of that being said, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you would like to hear more from me or from Center Ice, you can head over to FromCenterIce.com. You can keep up with the latest podcast episodes, game previews for the Hawks, game recaps for the IceHogs, and some other fun stuff in between. The Frozen Four tournament is currently happening. There is only one Blackhawks prospect still remaining in that. That would be Wyatt Kaiser with Minnesota Duluth. That's why I was rooting for them to win. Unfortunately, Boston University lost. That took out 3 of our prospects. And Wisconsin lost. But I did put up an article highlighting all of the players that were playing in the tournament that are Blackhawks prospects, so you can go check that out if you're interested. If you're a social media person, you can follow us on all the social media pages. I will have links for those. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all after this chaotic afternoon/evening with 2 more games. Bye, guys.